Preston Chesacook.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm very pleased to rise today to discuss this legislation, the CPP.
The Nova Scotia, of course, the riding of Sackville, Preston, Chesacook, which surrounds the two cities of Nova Scotia, Halifax and Dartmouth. Madam Speaker, I must say that, when I look at it, this is federalism at its best, and I'm shocked that the Conservatives are not on board on this very important initiative. The last 10 years, and that was the problem with the last government, the last 10 years, there was no cooperation, no partnership, no collaboration of any kind between the provinces and the government. I mean, on a number of occasions, I remember the Prime Minister showing up in Newfoundland or in BC, not even advising the Premier of that province that he was coming in to make an announcement. That's unbelievable when you think about that. So here, this initiative is a clear indication of how strong our government is in working in collaboration with provinces and territories. This was not an easy thing to do. This took a lot of hardworking individuals doing what is right for Canadians. It's not a tax, it's an investment. It's an investment in Canadians. And this is what we did, and that's why we should be proud, because we're laying important steps to ensure that Canadians will be able to retire in dignity. Let's talk about the youth here. I mean, we have had experiences and opportunities that they don't. If I look at myself and most people in here, we all have pension at the workplace that we worked. But many, many young people today who are able to find jobs, we find in a lot of these businesses that they are not offering company pensions, workplace pensions. So just to think about this now, I remember when I was young, the pension didn't mean so much to me because it was too far away. But I can tell you that 5-10 years ago, I started thinking, oh my, do I have enough invested? Am I going to have a pension that's going to allow me to do the things that I would like to do when I retire? These young individuals may not have these same opportunities. And the gap continues. Over the last 10 years, the gap continued to expand, and the pension funds would probably, instead of increasing, they would probably have a lot less when they get there than what exists today. So that's even more important. I mean, I think of it, in the United States, it was projected a possible shortfall in their social welfare program if they don't invest. So here we are as Canadians saying we need to make sure that individuals can retire in dignity. We need to ensure that the youth will be able to put more money aside. This is an investment into their pension fund, which is extremely, extremely important. Now, let's look at what this is. This is not an investment where you need to put everything ahead in the year one. This is a 7-year process which Canadians will invest into this gradually, if you want, into this pension, CPP pension. So what are we going to see at the end product? Well, today people receive approximately, pending of course the salary, $13,110. And instead of that, they're going to receive approximately $20,000. That's a major increase. It's a 50% increase, which is very, very impressive when we look at how it's going to be structured. Now, as my colleague said earlier, Quebec, which is not part of this plan, is looking at implementing some of the pieces or may even implement it all at the end of the day. So that's extremely positive. Let me talk about also the OAS, where the former government said, well, Canadians are living longer, so now we won't give them their pension at 65. Doesn't matter if they plan to retire then and they worked and no, they're going to work until they're 67, and we're not going to give them their old age pension. Now, this government committed to that, to returning back to 65. And we did that shortly after forming government, which again shows how we were able to move quickly on our commitment. Now, let's talk about the CCB, the Child Care Benefit. Madam Speaker, I can tell you that throughout the campaign, and I covered approximately 22,000 houses, and I can tell you that that was the main issue I was hearing. Young families out there struggling, needing support so that they could provide for their families. That's extremely important issue. And these individuals, and I was impressed because I would ask a young couple how they were, if they, how the cost for young kids, and if they were struggling, and how we could help. And they said what we were proposing was exactly what they needed. It was going to increase the child care benefit by an enormous amount, and it was going to be tax-free. That's what's important, tax-free. That means that they were not going to be taxed on the extra money they were receiving from the government to help them as a family. So I can tell you that was a key point for young families to do so. The other piece that we have to keep in mind is seniors. When we talk about seniors, we brought forward also we're looking at the 10%, if you want, an increase, which brings almost $1,000 to low-income seniors and as well as single seniors. Those are other investments. And so this initiative, this government is looking, it's a multiple approach, if you want, to ensure that we're helping the middle class. And that's what it's all about, is helping the middle class. Now I can be talking about, I could spend hours talking about infrastructure. I could. Infrastructure investment is one major strategy which will ensure that job creation, and also you need to renovate, you need to improve what's out there, you need to build, and those are pieces, the infrastructure investment. And it's not just happening in one area. This is an investment that's taking place across Canada, in all parts, in all provinces in Canada. So there, when you put these pieces together, it becomes more and more obvious that we are a government that cares about its people. We are a government that cares about its middle class. We care about youth. We care about seniors. And we're a government that made commitments, and we're a government that's delivering on those commitments. And I'm extremely happy to support this CPP and our government's initiative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments, questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Drummond.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, as I've already said, each year we meet with seniors who say that the pension plan needs to be enhanced. It's not enough, so it's a good idea to enhance it. However, there are some weaknesses in the government's approach, and that includes not including the exclusion clauses. Madam Speaker, as you know, there are currently exclusion clauses covering time when people raise children and aren't in the workforce, and also for persons with disabilities who, when they can't go to work, when they're unable to work. So why didn't my honourable colleagues support the requests to keep those exclusions in place? That they're very important for people like women, seniors, and for persons with disabilities, so they don't end up living in poverty. The honourable member. Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague opposite for his question. I can say that there's an agreement that has been developed between the provinces and the territories and our government. It's not perfect, but our minister has already indicated that he intended to raise those subjects with the provinces and territories at the next meeting that will be held shortly. So we'll see that it is our intention to support Canadians to the best of our ability. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The honourable member for Sherbrooke. Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for his remarks. Even if he spent more than half of his speech talking about something different. Now, I'm having a bit of trouble following the Liberals' speeches. On the one hand, they're saying it's urgent and they need to proceed with this time allocation motion that they did this morning. The government had it adopted, saying that they need to move forward with C-26, but there have been, 3 or 4 Liberal members speaking to C-26, but if it were so urgent, why are the Liberal members continuing to rise to speak to it? To speak to the bill. So I'd like to know if he has an explanation to this type of doublespeak coming from them. The honourable member. Well, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the member opposite for his question. Bear in mind, we want to share with Canadians the information on enhancements to CPP, the benefits for Canadians across the country, and it's our responsibility to speak and to advance the agenda so that these measures can be put in place. The government has made promises, and we need to adopt these bills, and that's exactly what we're in the process of doing. The honourable member for Moncton Riverview, Dieppe. Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his remarks. I'd like to ask him if he could elaborate on the benefits of Bill C-26 for the people of Canada. The honourable member for Sackville, Preston Chessy-Cook.
My colleague.
I'd like to thank the honourable member for her question. There are absolute benefits for Canadians for years and years to come. This is an extremely important initiative, like the many initiatives we have undertaken, social initiatives that we've put in place to support Canadians. This is part of our government's plan that will guarantee our success in that area.
The